So welcome to Zoom into Careers, a series designed to introduce students to a culture of high achievement and highlight the many different career pathways available to them. I am Melissa Suarez here at the Young Community Schools, and today we have Joe. Can you say your last name for me, please?
DePinto.
DePinto. I didn't want to butcher it. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's all good.
So we have Joe DePinto with us to share a little about your career. And do you have a company name, or is it just a title that you have?
So my business is called Hometown Consulting.
Okay.
And it's just me.
Oh, wow. That must be nice. So before we get started, I'd like to remind everybody that this Zoom is being recorded, and a link to this video will be posted to our website for future viewing. So welcome, Joe, and thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So we'll get started off with, can you tell us a little bit about your company and what role you have with it?
Sure. So it's not necessarily, basically lobbyists, they're their own companies for most part. There's some bigger firms that have multiple lobbyists, maybe 10 or 15, some of the bigger ones. But for the most part, contract lobbyists, which I am, is just a single proprietor for most part. So
okay.
I work with other lobbyists as well, but for me, it's just me and my practice or my shop.
Your shop, yeah. How did you get into your career field?
So it's different for everybody. The way I got in, after graduation from high school from Yale, I went to Eastern Washington University. I majored in government, minors in history and communications. I was involved with the student activities there. I was president of my fraternity. I was president of the College Republicans. And through the College Republicans, I had an opportunity where Congresswoman Kathy McMorris Rogers, her campaign manager, had asked me to see if we, as the College Republicans, could put in, give them some manpower, basically some boots on the ground to do some sign waving, stuff like that. And so we didn't have that many, but I recruited a lot of people, and we got a lot of folks helping out, doing phone calls, doing sign waving, such as things like that. And it was successful. The campaign manager was very grateful and suggested that I apply for an internship. So that's what really started my career in politics, is that internship. And
nice.
And that translated into a job with her office. And after college, I got a job over at the state legislature, where I was the legislative assistant for a gentleman named Paul Harris. He's a state representative, still is. He was a minority whip for most of the time, which basically means that he, what's that one show with Kevin Spacey, House of Cards? It's basically like him.
That's been a while.
It's basically like that, but he doesn't kill people or anything like that, or put on.
Right.
So,
oh my.
So I got to help out with that, and I did that for about 5 years, and I decided that I wanted to do something different. And that was actually about the same time I was elected as city council, a little bit afterwards. And about 2016, I decided to go on my own, and I didn't have a job planned up or thought of or anything lined up or anything like that. So I just went out on my own, and I saved up money, of course, so I had a little cushion, but I did that for about 2 months or so and didn't have much success. It's very hard to break into.
Yeah.
But there was someone that wanted to hire me as their assistant, and so I started doing kind of his grunt work, doing like scheduling, making appointments, and my role kind of expanded into direct lobbying, where I was trying to influence legislation, trying to help out on his clients. And so I did that for about 2 years, and he kind of mentored me. And most of his clients were cities, so like the city of Kent, city of Everett, Puyallup, some bigger cities around. And so I helped them with their legislation, helped them with creating lists for grants and different funding sources, stuff like that. And did that for about 2 years, and then I started up on my own. And now I have different clients that I lobby for on my own, and then I also subcontract for bigger lobbyists on helping them with some of their clients.
Wow.
That's where I'm at now.
Nice. It seems like a lot of work.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, I'm just lucky. I love what I do. I enjoy it. It's a passion of mine.
That's very it's not very common that people get to actually do their job that they really love. So that's really
Yeah,
awesome. So digging a little bit more into this, what is a recent problem you had to solve or a project that you're working on?
sure. So last year I represented an organization called the Heritage Capital Projects Coalition. And there were a bunch of groups, nonprofits that banded together to seek funding for 36 different projects. And they were seeking funding for about $9.7 million.
Wow.
So it was my job to make sure that that project got funded and did do whatever I could in my power to make sure that the elected officials had the information they needed to make their decisions, that they understood the economic benefits, the social benefits of having some of these projects. And some of these places are like restorative projects, like a lighthouse, historic significance, stuff like that.
Okay.
And so the big challenge though was there's a couple budgets that get put out. The first is usually the governor's budget. And the governor's budget can come in December or right before session, and he'll kind of set the tone for session. And it was funded in his budget for around $5 million, which would have funded about half the projects, a little bit less actually, because they range in different sizes. From the smallest project was like $20,000, and the biggest one was close to $500,000. So it was really important to get full funding for everybody and not just one project, because I represent the whole organization, the group. And
Okay.
so I had to make the case to different politicians, that state senators, state representatives, that these projects in their districts are important, and it's worthy of taxpayer money to fund some of these projects. And so it was a huge challenge getting from about 5 million to 9.7 million. When the first budget was released from the House, it had the same number as the governor's, which was disappointing to see. You know, it had a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
But working with the senators, we were able to get full funding from their budget, and then when they had to reconcile, and that's where I had to make sure that they understood the economic benefits and the return on the investment that they're making for some of these projects, the jobs, the construction jobs that are involved. And we were able to do it. And it wasn't just me doing it. It was a lot of hard work from these individual members, and also the elected officials too, from Representative J.T. Wilcox, who's our local one here. He pushed
Right.
for it's called the Tofu House over in Eatonville. And so they were restoring a historical building there. So he fought for that. But it takes a lot of different folks, not just one person, to bring everybody together and make sure that we get the funding. And happy to say that we got the full $9.7 million in the capital budget. So we were very happy about that. I was very proud. And yeah, that was a huge obstacle we had to overcome.
That's awesome. How long did it take you?
So it's usually a session that project started. They were late in the game, so they hired me right when session started. And so I was racing around trying to make sure that folks knew about the project, because a lot of legislators, they have thousands upon thousands of different things, that different organizations, different people, different priorities that are out there that they're wanting to help. And so you got to make your case on why funding your project is so important. So
Mhm.
it's difficult sometimes.
Yeah, that's historical buildings. I really believe they're really important, and that's one of the nice things that I like about being in Yelm here, is that we have a lot of historical buildings and we
Yeah,
keep them that way. So
yeah,
it's one of the unique places to live around here, and especially in Thurston County. You see that a lot in the area, so that's awesome.
yeah.
Um, can you tell us something people might not know about your job, or something that you had to learn
Yeah.
to teach yourself?
Yeah, so just generally, most people, they don't really know a lobbyist, or when they think of lobbyists, they see them from movies. And, you think of like big tobacco or the NRA, stuff like that.
Right.
Most lobbyists, so that's, first of all, that's national lobbyists.
Okay.
There's state lobbyists, which I am. I represent organizations, individuals here in Washington State, and versus nationally or federally in Washington, D.C. Some of these companies, though, that I represent have other lobbyists too, that their primary position is to represent them in D.C., but mine's here in Olympia. So yeah, that's probably the biggest thing that folks don't know. Or so I'm a contract lobbyist. There's also lobbyists that are called in-house, people that are like government affairs directors, stuff like that. So like Microsoft, they have an in-house lobbyist that works for Microsoft directly, and they have someone like me, a little more experience, probably about 20, 30 more years than I do, as their contract lobbyist. So yeah.
Well, you'll get there, right?
Yeah.
In time.
Yeah, it's my second year, and you know, I do the best I can right now, and I think I deliver pretty well for my clients. But I have a lot to learn still. It's just like any job, it's gaining experience. The more experience you have, the better you can perform your job.
Yeah, that is very true. So, but speaking of the skills, so what are the important skills, or maybe the training that you would need to enter to be a lobbyist?
Sure. So if you're going to study something in school, I would recommend poli-sci, political science, government. You could also go the attorney route and go for your to become an attorney. And there's some lobbyists that are attorneys, some that aren't. I'm not an attorney or anything, but I did study poli-sci in college, and that's kind of, and honestly, you don't have to have a college degree either to be a lobbyist, to register for the Washington State lobbies. You just have to register on and file your financials and make sure that you're uploading all the information about your clients, stuff like that.
Okay.
So, but it's very helpful though to have a background in political science or the legal background. If you're in high school right now, I would recommend being a page. You can be a page where you would help pass out notes, you help with legislation, delivering papers, and basically you get to work on the House floor with the legislators. I helped a young man named George Packard, who's a student, a senior at Yale right now, when he was a page. So that was pretty cool. Yeah. But other than that, just having communication skills, being able to understand both sides, not being easy to anger, being pretty mellow because you're going to have times when you're trying to push for a certain bill or different legislation, and the legislators can be like, I just disagree. I don't agree with you. So you need to find out where they're coming from in their perspective, and try to make them find your perspective.
Yeah, that's a lot of people don't realize that having a certain type of personality will also help you be successful in specific job areas. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. That's a very important. Slow to anger or no anger, especially when you hear the word no or try again.
Yeah.
So you answered my next question, which is awesome. What do you recommend for students? Becoming a page, though, being in school, is there like a website that students should go to, or should there's somebody that they should talk to?
Yeah, it's ledge.wa.gov is the main page, and so it's leg.wa.gov. If you go to that site, it'll show you there's a link towards, it's called the PAGE program, and you can apply that way. And so each legislator, I think it's they can sponsor 2 students. And so Rep Wilcox, Rep Barkus, they can each get 2 themselves, and Senator Becker, who's actually retiring this year, she gets 2 as well. So those are the ones that fight for us here in Yelm. They're the ones that represent us. And George was, so a funny story, George was actually, they were all full, the other legislators. They already divvied out their allocations for pages. And so I used to work for a gentleman named Paul Harris, and I still have good relationship with him. And I had asked him if he would use one of his sponsorships for George, and he agreed. And so that's how George became it, because of Paul Harris down in Vancouver.
Oh, wow. Yeah, networking seems to get you in a lot of places. So
Yeah,
networking is really important, especially in having your own
yeah.
business. Yeah.
And if anyone wants to become a page or they have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. And you can use it in my city email too. I'm also a city council member. But if you're trying to become a page, I'd be happy to set you up with that. Happy to connect you with Rep Wilcox or Rep Marcus or Senator Becker, so that you can try to do that, have that experience. It's a wonderful
Oh,
experience.
that's awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yeah. So as someone who already has gone through the process of getting a business started and in Yelm, what are the first steps you took to launch your business? And what does the process of getting a business license in Yelm look like?
Sure. So mine is actually in Olympia, because that's where I do all my business and my meetings.
Okay.
I have a home office here in Yelm, but most of my meetings are in Olympia. So their process, and it's the same with Yelm too, though. You can go online at Department of Revenue. They have a portal where you can sign up, and it's actually pretty simple these days. And it'll explain to you different tax rates, the different requirements that you have to put up to do it. But basically, it's a lot of work starting up. There's different organizations such as the Thurston Economic Development Council that you can go to help for that. So if you want to start your own business, I would highly recommend talking to some of those folks, and they'll take you step for step on starting your own business, from administrative side of it to logistical. Like if you're, well, for me, it's a little bit different, because it's I have a unique industry, I suppose, versus if you want to start up a restaurant. There's a lot of people that start restaurants, so they have a lot of expertise in doing that.
Okay.
But yeah, so I would go to the Department of Revenue's website, and that is probably the best explanation.
Perfect. Thank you. What advice would you have given yourself in high school to better prepare for your career that you're in right now?
For like most jobs and careers, the earlier you know what you want to do, the earlier you start, the more success you're going to have, just because you have just more experience than others. So if you take a look like at a football player who wants to be a professional athlete, if they know what they want to be, a Seahawks right when they're 12 years old, they have a head start on anyone else, same way that's trying the same path. So the longer you know what you want to do, and you can work towards it, practice towards it, the more chance you are to be more successful at that job. And that's the same with this. But the biggest advice I can say, if you're in high school right now or going to college, I would recommend volunteering on campaigns. To become a lobbyist, there's different routes to become a lobbyist, but one of the best ways to start your networking is to start volunteering on campaigns. And also, I'd be happy to help you up, set you up with different folks from our district. If you're a Democrat, I have friends that are Democrats. If you're a Republican, I have friends that are Republicans. It doesn't matter what party you are. If you want to get involved politically, I'd be happy to help you out and get you started with that.
That's awesome. Was there anybody in Yelm High School that inspired you to get to where you're at right now?
In different aspects, I suppose. It's one of my peers. So I played tennis for Yelm, and for a long time I was the number 2 singles tennis player. And there's someone I looked up to. His name was Brian Barbero. He graduated a year before I did, 2003. He was 2 years older than I was.
Okay.
And so he was the number 1 singles player, and more than that, he was just a good person. And he always taught me different things about leadership. He had nice little lines, just random advices, pieces just on leadership in general, and just to be a good person. And so I appreciate his mentorship, I suppose.
Yeah, no, you get it in all different ways, especially if you it doesn't matter if it's from a peer or from a teacher from the high school. So yeah, no, definitely. Is there anything else that you would like to add?
Um, Take risks. If you're still in high school, take as many risks and opportunities as you can. Right now, most of you all are probably living at your home, your house with your parents. You can kind of have a safety net to take some chances. And there's a famous quote that I always love by Machiavelli: "Fortune favors the bold." And I just believe that you got to take some chances. You got to risk a lot to get a lot. And you could play conservatively, and you could be you don't have to take risks, but the odds are you're not going to really excel either. You got to take some risks some point of your life, and I would recommend taking them as much as you can while you're still young. You don't have a mortgage to pay, and you can
Yeah.
afford to take that. Go travel, go study abroad. Have those experiences where you're not going to be able to do that in your late 20s or 30s or 40s. With
Hmm.
having a family or a career, it's hard to travel, hard to have these experiences. And so, yeah, just take risks and travel.
That's awesome. I appreciate all of your great advice, and I actually learned a lot about being a lobbyist as well. So yeah, no, um don't really follow the politics too much. So this was definitely intriguing for me. So I appreciate it. And
I'm
yeah, I
glad.
just this amazing what you're doing. I think it's great
Thank
that
you.
you're out there helping people for sure, in
Yeah,
companies or organizations. So yeah, thank you so
yeah.
much for your time.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Melissa.